ข้อถัดไปนั้นนะคะก็จะเข้มข้นขึ้นไปอีกนะคะซึ่งนะคะเดี๋ยวอีกสักครู่หนึ่งทุกท่านก็จะได้รับฟังกันแล้วค่ะเป็นหัวข้อที่น่าสนใจมากๆเลยนะคะนั่นก็คือหัวข้อ The future of cybersecurity is autonomous Singularity XDR ซึ่งในลำดับนี้นะคะก็เดี๋ยวอีกสักครู่หนึ่งเท่านั้นนะคะจะได้รับฟังกันแล้วค่ะวันนี้นะคะเราก็ยังอยู่กันตลอดทั้งวันเลยนะคะกับงานของเรา Cyber Elite Day 2022 นั่นเองค่ะเชื่อว่าหลายๆท่านในวันนี้นะคะที่ได้เข้าร่วมงานกับเราค่ะจะได้รับความรู้กันไปแบบจัดเต็มมากๆเลยค่ะอดใจรออีกสักครู่หนึ่งนะคะเรากำลังจะเริ่มต้นขึ้นแล้วนะคะแล้วเราก็ยังมีอีกหลายหัวข้อด้วยนะคะแน่นอนเลยว่าต้องเป็นประโยชน์อย่างแน่นอนเลยสำหรับทุกๆท่านที่ได้เข้าร่วมงานกับเราในวันนี้ด้วยนะคะซึ่งแต่ละหัวข้อที่ได้ผ่านไปแล้วนะคะล้วนแต่เป็นหัวข้อที่น่าสนใจมากๆเลยนะคะเพราะฉะนั้นค่ะในวันนี้นะคะเชื่อว่าหลายๆท่านนะคะหลังจากที่จบงานไปแล้วก็จะได้รับความรู้กันไปอีกมากมายเลยทีเดียวนะคะยังไงขออนุญาตเรียนเชิญอดใจรออีกสักครู่หนึ่งเท่านั้นนะคะกับหัวข้อดีๆแบบนี้ที่กำลังจะเกิดขึ้นนั่นเองค่ะ So I would like to invite Mr. Kelvin Wee, Senior Director Security Engineering APJ SentinelOne on the stage right here. Thank you.
Thanks. Thank you very much. Thank you. I'm delighted to be here. Thank you very much for having me. My name is Kelvin Wee, and I'm the Senior SE Director for SentinelOne, Asia Pacific and Japan. Over the next few minutes, I will cover the topic around cybersecurity, around XDR. I think there is a lot of discussions around what XDR stands for. A lot of vendors will have different definitions, but what I would like to do is to discuss with you about the problems and the pain points that I've seen in the organizations, in our customers' environment, and how we can actually solve some of these pain points in a real-life example. So the agenda of my presentation will start with the threat landscape that we see today. I will briefly discuss with you about the concept of time to contain, what this means. And last but not least, what I will do is to provide you with a life hack. And what I mean by a life hack is I will demonstrate to you how our solution works in a customer environment and how we can protect our customers against sophisticated zero-day attacks that we see today. So just to briefly talk about the threat landscape, there are a lot of data and information that you can get out there today. I just got these information from the Surfshark. If you go to if you do a Google search for data breach globally, you can find statistics about the number of data breaches that happen across the world. This data is taken directly from Surfshark. Thailand, for example, is ranked 33 compared to the rest of the world. So I think top countries would include countries like the US, Russia, or even China. And I think a lot of the times that we think about data breaches, you think about why is there that kind of need or that kind of attacks that occur. Some of you may have already seen this news that happened only a couple of days ago on the 21st of November. Personal data of AirAsia, for example, got leaked out. And we are talking about passengers, not just from Malaysia, Indonesia, and even Thailand, apparently now have their data leaked due to a ransomware attack. It is estimated that about 5 million passenger information across these countries have been exfiltrated. And the Dyson team ransom attack, they were the ones who claimed responsibility for that. Now, you might be wondering, personal data, why is it important? It is important is because some of the syndicates use this as the first line of attack in some of the sophisticated attacks that we have seen. The main thing now is that if you are in an organization that is being hit with a ransomware, an attack like this, what do you need to do? What will be the first thing that you'll try to do? So let me explain a little bit about the concept of time to contain. Time to contain is literally the time that you need to regain control of your system after it has been attacked or it has been compromised. I would give credit to Saints Institute for coming out with this methodology. And I think what is important is that many times we don't even know that your organization has been compromised or breached. It is only when the actual attack appears that you know that the incident has occurred. And that's when you have identified the incident. And during that time, from the time of identification to the time where you are able to clean up and gain control of the system, that is what I mean by time to contain. So if we were to break down time to contain from T0 to T-contain, there are many things that an organization can do. How do you detect that particular attack or threat? What are the automated responses or the automated capabilities that you have that will allow you to do this kind of containment? Are your teams, your SOC teams, your security teams sufficiently alerted and identify all the different kinds of attack, investigate, and so on? So one of the challenges that we hear in terms of the pain points that a lot of our customers, well, before they use our solution, one of the things that they always tell me in a lot of the discussions that I have with CISOs is that the minute when they know that a system is compromised or an attack has occurred, the top priority that they have is to contain the machine, to isolate the machine. And this tends to be the top priority for many organizations that I discuss with, but it is usually a very painful and tedious and a manual process to do the isolation or the disconnection of that machine. Now, if you're using a traditional or conventional AV solution, which is signature-based, this becomes a challenge. If you have a zero-day attack, it means you have to update the signature database, and you have to scan your entire infrastructure to see if this malicious payload is residing in your network. And most of the time, in fact, all of the time, the IT security team will be the one that's very heavily involved, restoring the last known backup, the last known good backup of the infrastructure. I know that it was discussed in the panelists earlier on, disaster recovery. If something bad happens, if a ransomware has encrypted all your files, what do you need to do to restore those files? How fast can you restore that? Is it in a matter of minutes, hours, or even days? Because all this will impact your business. The last point I do get a lot of requests is that organizations now are starting to mature to understand that attacks are getting more sophisticated. And they need tools to identify these kind of attacks, the detection and the response. And so what I'm delighted to see is that I've seen a lot of organizations here in Thailand who are now maturing to the level where, in fact, maturing much faster than some of the regional countries, looking at the capability to do that level of investigation so that you can have the expertise in-house into the organization. So I want to highlight this. Don't try this at home. I will be doing a life hack in the next couple of minutes, and I will be using live malware to show this demonstration. To give you an example of an anatomy of an attack, I think one of the things is that a lot of syndicates, like I mentioned, would focus on getting certain information. They could also have the capability to build their own ransomware, build their own malicious code. But in many cases, what we have seen is that they will reuse something that they have already built. How do they do that? To bypass signature-based or conventional type of security solutions, there are tools out there that allows you to do mutation. And there are techniques that they can use to disguise the file to give a new signature or a new identity. And so if you take a simple R-Evil ransomware, for example, through a mutation process, I can then create a zero-day ransomware. Now, for those of you who are interested in understanding how mutation work or malware analysis, during the break after this presentation, you can come over to the SentinelOne booth. We can have a more detailed discussion. It is very difficult. Sometimes it takes me a longer time to demonstrate how mutation actually works. But remember I mentioned about private or personal information data. Why this is important is that if the hacker is able to gain access to your personal information, they can use this personal information as part of a multi-stage attack. So, if you think about the recent case with AirAsia, if I have your passport number, your date of birth, your email, your mobile number, I can use that information to then secure this zero-day ransomware package, encrypt it with a personal data. I think nowadays, if you look at the kind of communications you have with the banks, with organizations that have personal information, they will always say that this is your new insurance policy, encrypted with your mobile number or encrypted with your date of birth and national ID card. This is some of the techniques that is being used. And remember, part of that personal information includes information of your email, for example. So I can send this payload to the victim, securely send this payload to the victim, bypassing all the gateway and email solutions that you've got. And when the victim opens this package, when it is protected by SentinelOne, that system is protected. I'm very mindful of time. I know that I have another 19 minutes or so, but I will focus on the demonstration that I'm going to show next. And I want to highlight again, the payload that I'm using is a live ransomware. Please do not try this at home. I have virtual machines that are running on my laptop today. This is what I do on a day-to-day basis. I analyze malware. I look at how they function. And in many ways, this is how I would do the analysis on this particular machine. I have 3 environments. The first environment is my staging zone. The staging zone does not have any security products installed, but this is the place where I keep all my collection of ransomware and malicious codes. And this is where I would launch the attack. I want you to focus on this particular machine, which is the protected zone. The protected zone is a virtual machine that is installed with the SentinelOne agent in full protection mode. And what this means is that this is how our customers would install our solution to protect them against all the zero-day ransomware and the malicious code attacks in an automated response fashion. So we talk about automated XDR, how this solution will protect our customers against all these kinds of sophisticated zero-day attacks. This is the configuration that we do. I do have another machine that is also installed with the SentinelOne solution, but in a detect mode only. Now what this means is that I have the SentinelOne solution installed, but I disable the protection mode. Now, why do you want, you must be thinking, why do I want to do that? So this gives me the capability to look and analyze that particular ransomware or that malicious code end to end, from the time it starts to the time it detonates, encrypt the files, and so on. So this allows me to do very detailed malware analysis. I have a little sheep here because I call this my sacrificial lamb. This is the one that I will throw all the different malware, and then I will see how it works, and that's how I do the analysis. Okay, are you all ready for the life hack? Okay, I see a few nodding heads. So what I will do next is to go into the live demonstration. Are you able to switch the screen? Okay, so I have a Windows 10 machine here. Now remember, this is my protected zone. So I have this highlight of protect. Remember the attack sequence I was telling you about. An email can be securely sent to the victim, and what I'm talking about is a targeted email, right? This is a authentic looking email. Kelvin, there's been recent attacks. I'm the IT security manager. Please install this software on your machine to prevent further attacks and so on. But this particular package is protected with your mobile number. So if the victim, for example, thinks that this is an authentic email from the IT security manager, and he downloads and saves this onto the desktop, what's going to happen is that this package here has been successfully downloaded onto the machine. I'm using email as an example. Some of the attacks that we have seen, they give you a web URL link, and when you go to that link, it'll just download it there. So let me see what happens here when I decide to unpack this file. And remember, this is protected by my mobile number. And when I unpack this, one of the things that you'll notice is that SentinelOne would have detected this particular attack or this particular payload automatically. And if I were to open the folder, you'll see that the file or the folder is empty because the file or that malicious code would have been automatically quarantined by the SentinelOne agent. Now, this is a zero-day ransomware. Like I said, if you're interested to see how mutation can be done, I can do that later in the booth. Because of time, I need to finish this in 5 minutes. So this is how a protected environment looks like. Let me now move to the detected mode. This is the environment where I have full detection, which means I will start alerting you about all the different attacks that is occurring. But the protection is turned off. You might be wondering, again, why am I doing this? It's because I want to illustrate to you how the ransomware actually works. I will use the same method. I will save this onto the desktop. How many of you have seen a live ransomware attack before? Nobody? Okay, so I think after today, you can tell your friends and colleagues that you have seen a live ransomware in action. Good? All right. Okay, so I will now unpack this. This is protected by my mobile number. You'll see that the threat is detected. But because I did not turn on the protection, you can see this file. And if I were to execute this file now, one of the things that you'll see is that there's all these different threats that is detected here. These are all my document files. You notice that my Thunderbird got shut down because one of the characteristics of our evil ransomware is to basically shut down the email system. And I just wanted to highlight to you that I have internet connectivity. And you will also see that all these files are very quickly encrypted, right? And this is how fast the R-Evil ransomware actually works. It encrypts all the files, all the PDF documents are gone, and there is this new README file that appears here, which is the ransom note. So this is R-Evil ransomware. I will now quickly move to the management console. And this is what our customers will see when they're looking at the management console or the system that we have here. You will see a couple of things. The first thread, this is protected. And then you'll see these three others is because the file was downloaded, unzipped, we did all the detection, and remember this machine is in a detect mode only. If I go into the details here, you'll then be able to see the threat indicators. Now remember, this is the solution, this is the setup where I'm looking at the analysis of all this ransomware. And you can see that it behaves like a ransomware. It tries to delete away the shadow copy, the Microsoft Volume Shadow copy, which is the backup of the operating system. But I want to highlight that the SentinelOne solution protects the agent, and it also protects the Volume Shadow copy. And why this is important is that when I look at a system like this, the first thing I would like to do is to disconnect the machine. Disconnecting the machine is to isolate the machine. Now, the agent is designed in such a way that if you want to do isolation, it will cut the machine off from the internet. But it will also maintain the communication from the agent to the management console. So in other words, as the administrator, I can still control this machine. And what this means, I know my time is up, but I will cover this very quickly. What this means is that I can get all the details about this attack. I can also choose to do a one-click rollback. Now, this is a patented design by SentinelOne, and we are the only ones who can do this seamlessly because we can do a one-click rollback. And what this will do is that it will tell the agent to go back in time to look at all the events that have occurred and undo the process. Now, what I mean by undo is that because I've recorded everything that has begun from beginning to end, I can then kill the 5 different processes in less than 100 milliseconds. I can then quarantine the files. I can then repair the system, and so on. So I know my time is up. Please bear with me just for a few more seconds. I would like to illustrate to you how all the entire process could be done in less than a minute. And then once everything has been restored, if I were to go back to the system here, the restoration of all the files will reappear based on the volume shadow copy. And then you will then be able to see from the management console all the entire remediation process that has been completed. Now, what I would like to do also is to highlight that the entire system that we have here is patented, and that's why we are unique. If you have any further questions or any other things that you'd like to see, please come to our booth and we can give you a better illustration about how we did all this remediation, the thousands of them, the rolling back of all the files. Thank you very much for your attention. I can take questions later at the booth. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Kelvin Wee, for giving us forces a very useful information. และในลำดับนี้นะคะก็เดี๋ยวดิฉันค่ะต้องขออนุญาตเรียนเชิญนะคะคุณณัฐพล อาภาแสงเพชรค่ะผู้อำนวยการฝ่าย Managed Services Security and Security Advisory บริษัท Cyber Elite จำกัดนะคะมอบของที่ระลึกให้กับวิทยากรของเราค่ะค่ะต้องขอขอบคุณทุกท่านเป็นอย่างสูงด้วยนะคะ